Papa Ken Media.
Hello all my Kenvians, I'm Papa Kenn and welcome to a brand new video. What I guess is sort of a opinion video, or I may put it into a different category by the time I post this, I don't know quite yet. But what I wanted to talk about today is a matter that I found out about recently, and it may actually be something that is completely under the radar for most of you. But the topic is that Jim Sterling, a YouTube personality and video game reviewer, is being sued by a software indie game developer company known as Digital Homicide. And I'm wanting to try and put this opinion, I'm wanting to be as objective as I can be. That's rather difficult because I am personally a fan of Jim Sterling. Definitely would not say I'm a fan of Digital Homicide, but again, I'm going to try my best to be as objective as possible here. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with either side, I'm going to provide links in the comments down below going to Jim's work, Jim's channel. Also of particular note would be the link going to neogaf.com. It shows a thread containing information pertaining to the lawsuit that has been filed against Jim. And so I won't go into too much detail on that. But I do want to say, well, it's probably pretty obvious what side of this I fall on personally, but I want to give the reasons why. So, Jim Sterling, he's a fairly large YouTuber at this point. He's not gigantic by the means of PewDiePie, Game Grumps, and others that have millions upon millions of subscribers, but he is doing rather well. I want to say he has over 300,000 subscribers. Let me actually check real quick. I want to make sure I don't give you any false information. Yes, Jim Sterling has, as of this time, over 325,000 subscribers to his channel. So that's a fairly sizable amount. Again, not on the level of, you know, the gigantic channels like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and them, but it's still pretty substantial. And it goes without saying that he has a rather significant audience. And again, for those of you that might not have seen his material, or you might have seen some of them, Jim's style of video making and reviews to a point is very abrasive. Some people would call him an asshole. Some might use other choice words to describe him. But well, I'm sure part of that is his actual personality, but it's also a character that he plays, particularly in the episode or the videos called Jimquisition. He plays a very, I won't say unlikable, but a very hard to like character in the beginning and end sections of some of those videos. And it's either a character you do or do not like. But all that aside, he is very passionate and very honest about his opinions when it comes to video games, when it comes to well, the different games that he plays, that he reviews. If he really likes something, he makes that known. Even if he really likes something, he will be sure to point out some of the issues he has with the game. Because that will undoubtedly come up from time to time. At the same time, if he reviews or plays a game that is just not good, he's going to be very honest about that. Sometimes a bit, I don't think flamboyant is the word, but sometimes it seems a little bit over the top as far as the way he will describe problems he has with different games. But at the same time, if you're watching the video, particularly his gameplay videos, while he's playing them, what he's saying makes sense, or at least it does to me upon personal observation. Now, moving on from Jim Sterling, again, for more information, check out the links down below. Digital Homicide is an indie developer Based on the lawsuit at least, they're apparently based out of Arizona, and they have made, I want to say, at this time, if memory serves me correctly, they have over 15 or maybe 16 games on Steam Greenlight. Not actually like full games for sale, but potential games. They've made trailers, they've made some demos here or there, I believe. But the one thing that they all have in common, again, based on personal observation, is that the games tend to be very low quality. Now, if you watch some of Jim's videos, and he's made a fair number of videos discussing Digital Homicide and some of their practices, so I won't go into as much detail as he does. I will provide some links down below if you're interested in finding out what he says. But it is based on observation of the demos, of the trailers. They don't put out what one would call high-quality products. And one of really the game that started all of this, like the entire feud between Digital Homicide and Jim Sterling, is a game called The Slaughtering Grounds, which is a playoff of the popular series Killing Floor, I believe it is. I've never played the games, but I can only assume that's where they got the name from. But Jim played it during one of his videos that he calls... the series is now called, I think, Jimpressions or Early Jimpressions, if it's from an early access game. Back then, I think he called them Squirty Plays or whatever. But during those videos, he basically gives live commentary on his feelings toward a game, what he's experiencing at the time. And, you know, again, like I was saying, he's very blatant, he's very blunt with the things he says, he's very honest. So, if he's liking a game that he's playing, he'll, you know, give praises for it. He'll say what he likes, and he'll point out the parts he doesn't like. In the case of The Slaughtering Grounds, just the entire video from start to finish was very, very negative. And while I have not personally played the game, I cannot personally say whether or not the game is good or bad. On personal observation of the video and what was occurring during the video, it appears to be a not very well made game. Visually, the graphics were not very good. There were if you've ever worked with transparencies or yeah, basically transparencies from pictures, you'll often use what's known as a .png file because they essentially have background, transparent backgrounds that are just automatically built in, or they can be made that way through paint shop, print shop, whatever it is. I can't remember words right now. But basically those are the kind of files you want. But for when you took damage in this game, it looked like a JPEG or a .jpg image that it was blood, and then there was little bits of white that were going around the trails of blood, where they had basically seemingly just pulled a blood image off of Google and didn't do a good job at erasing the non-transparent whiteness. It's like, so I mean, what I'm trying to say there is, like, it appears very low quality, and it had a lot of other issues. Again, I won't name them here. Link down below, and actually I'll probably put a link to that right here in the annotation. And what started it all was, after that video went up, Digital Homicide apparently caught wind of this video And they did not respond. They didn't respond nicely. Some would question whether they responded in a sane way, but it was very much a meltdown. That it was a saga, basically, that began with one of the guys from Digital Homicide taking Jim's video of him playing their games and just putting text commentary over what's going on while he's still talking. And just to make it's even more weird, I guess, Jim kind of acted on by doing a reaction to the video that they made of the video that he made. So it just got all kinds of different levels of weird. And I mean, it was hilarious to watch. Looking back, I do have to say I kind of wish Jim had kind of, let it go. But it was funny, it was interesting, and it made for good entertainment, to say the least. And then, over the next 2 years, a few more interesting things happened. There was a podcast, or rather, a conversation that Jim and one of the creators of Digital Homicide had over Skype, which became a podcast, again, linked down in the description. But it was an interesting thing to listen to, because I mean there's two ways and seriously only two ways I can personally bring myself to see it as. One view is you're basically listening to two adults bicker back and forth at each other. But since I've been following the situation, again, being a fan of Jim Sterling's, as I've been following along and I've learned more about Digital Homicide, listening to the conversation, listening to the podcast, for me at least, it appears to be more of, while still technically two adults bickering back and forth, one of the adults clearly has the higher ground, and you can hear it in the way they speak. You can hear it in the way that they respond to questions that are given to them by the other. And the one with the higher ground is Jim, because he's bringing them honest answers. He's bringing them facts as far as how fair use works, and other things of that nature. Whereas Digital Homicide is just trying to find some way to get him with a gotcha question. Or is it a getcha question? I can't remember. Whatever it is Sarah Palin made as a tagline for Fox News back in the day. But, okay, fast forward to the present, and after several threats of possibly suing Jim, actually, I won't go into all the details, because again, all of that's in the links down below. But they're now suing him, and there's not a lot of information out, particularly on Jim's side, because he is taking the route of the less said, the better, really, because he's just wanting to keep the situation in hand as much as possible and not have it become a complete circus. Now, I found out about this while listening to the most recent Podquisition, which is a podcast that Jim does with Gavin, a.k.a. Miracle of Sound, and Laura K. Buzz, a.k.a. Laura K. Buzz. And it's like he was sort of saying, it's like, some things going on that is sort of taking up my time, and then Laura revealed that apparently it had already been found out and leaked on NeoGAF what was going on, which is obviously that he was being sued. But he, in my opinion, took the more adult role there and just, didn't make any direct comments, didn't mention any names throughout the rest of the time. And he hasn't done it in anything else. He's made some side comments, but never naming any names. Really, the only thing he's done is acknowledge thanks to his fans for standing by him. Now, probably when it comes to the fans, this is probably the biggest thing that could potentially, in my opinion, hurt Jim as far as this lawsuit goes. And I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all the ins and outs of this, obviously. But because of the size of Jim's fan base, whenever it seems like whenever Digital Homicide has come out with a new game, I use air quotes with it, which is demeaning in and of itself, I apologize, but anytime something like that comes up, they're kind of almost immediately attacked by fans just giving the games low reviews, or leaving crude comments, which I can't think of any specific sources, but I am pretty sure that Jim has actually said to not, attack these people. It's like, it's not worth that. I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. But on the side of the fans, the argument could be made that Jim incited his fans to attack Digital Homicide. I don't think that's true. Personally, I think that the fans are responsible for themselves, that Jim is responsible for his own views. He's not responsible for what fans of his do in reaction to a review of a bad game, or his commentary on a situation with a company that he sees as bad. That seems about the most neutral word I can think of, but not a good company. And really, in that way, I still think that Jim has the high ground there. I honestly do believe that it's not on him to take control of what his fans do. The fans should be able to, act on their own account. They should be able to realize, oh, hey, I haven't actually played this game. I haven't actually played any of the games that this company owns, so I should not attack them for making crappy games. Just don't buy their games. If you're going to make negative comments about their games, make sure you've at least played it. Which again is why I'm doing my best to be as objective here as I can, because I have not played any of the Digital Homicide games. I don't think I ever will. Jim Sterling's videos pretty solidly convinced me of that. Now, if Digital Homicide is going to argue that his reviews, his negative critiques, have caused them to not make money, I mean, that's true, I guess, in my case, and probably others, but that's what reviews and critics are supposed to do. They're supposed to inform the masses. They're supposed to inform us so that we can make an educated decision whether or not we are going to purchase something, whether or not we are going to dedicate our money towards something. And in the case of Digital Homicide, people see some of these different games and they may just think, oh, hey, well, it's more YouTube fodder. We'll probably see PewDiePie play it or someone else. But this is one of those cases where Jim and undoubtedly others have, they've bit the bullet for fans, they've bit the bullet for potential customers, and have informed us of these low-quality games. At the same time, if someone wants to experience it for themselves, they would undoubtedly pay for the game. If they don't like it, Steam now has the ability to refund. So, that would still cost Digital Homicide money, but in that case, that would be because of the game itself. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, or a lot here at least. So, I think what I'm trying to say here in the end is that I personally believe that Jim of Jimquisition is in the right. I believe that everything he did was in fair use. He was playing the game. He was doing live commentary. He was giving on-the-spot reactions. Whether or not his opinions may have been too blatant or possibly hurtful to the indie developers Digital Homicide, because there's only 2 of them as opposed to it being an entire company, it's on them to not take critique of their work, be it incredibly harsh or lighthearted. They should not take those critiques personally. If someone attacks you personally, if they call you out by name, okay, you have an argument that you're being personally attacked. But when someone is saying that your game, and yes, even the company, is creating low-quality games, low-quality products, you can't take that personally. It's hard not to. When people, make negative comments about my videos, it hurts a bit, admittedly. But at the same time, I'm just one person, and I'm learning to, take critiques in stride and try and learn from the constructive criticism, and the trolls, just do my best to ignore them. That's easier to do for some than others. But in the case of having an indie software company, or an indie game developing company, where you and I guess your brother are the only 2 people involved, you can't just get mad because someone said bad things about your game. And that really, seeing this whole situation unfold, getting to the point where it is now, really seems like what it all boils down to, from my perspective, is that just the guys behind Digital Homicide take it too personally. They are unable to take criticism. And it would be one thing if, after taking the criticism, they started to take some of those games and improve the quality and improve the kind of games that they're making. But instead, they've gotten fixated upon Jim Sterling and maybe some others, but Jim in particular. And rather than trying to improve themselves, they just have been getting more and more games out, whether it be on early access or Steam Greenlight, and they're all low quality. Some of the finer details, like I think the term that's been coined is asset flipping, which is using just entire pre-made assets, so basically like characters and objects that you didn't make, and then creating a game out of that. That's something that seemingly Digital Homicide is guilty of, and they haven't seemingly they haven't really tried to improve on that at all. And there are a lot of other aspects to this that I just really don't have the time to go into, because I've already been talking way too long about it. But those of you that have been following along with this, or those of you that might be new to the situation, whether you check out the links below or not, please do let me know what you think about all this. Do you think that Digital Homicide is in the wrong? Do you think Jim Sterling is in the wrong? maybe both of them to a degree. Again, I feel like either side is completely innocent here, but one is definitely one that I would personally view unobjectively as the good guy. Trying to be as objective as I can, but I think at this point it's hard to say I am, because I am very firmly on Jim Sterling's side with this. And so if there are any opposing viewpoints out there, please do let me know what they are. And, don't just make it, well, Digital Homicide is jerks, Jim Sterling is a jerk, whatever. Please try and put a little bit more thought into it than that. But alright. Everyone, thank you very much for joining me for this rather lengthy opinion video. Again, let me know your thoughts on this situation. Whether it's just, your initial thoughts, or after taking time to look through some of the information, because there is a lot out there. There are a lot of things that have happened between these two sides over the last few years. But I just want to say, I know that Jim Sterling will most likely not watch this at all. But should he ever, or anyone that is close to Jim ever see this, I just want to say that as a fan, I respect your work. I respect what you do, and I thank you for being an honest critic, and for really trying to just not rolling over and letting these people walk all over you, when some would they would just bow down and take it, or they wouldn't have the financial ability to fight back. And I'm glad that you do, and I'm glad that you're the one standing up for the current media out there right now, the other YouTubers. One of the people fighting for the good side of things, in my opinion. My admittedly biased opinion. But alright, everyone, until next time, I'm Papa Ken. I'll see you later.